All right, let's go ahead and talk about some updates with regard to Israel and with regard to our own country, of course. Itamar Ben-Gvir has been doing a tour here in the U.S. He is, actual terrorist out of Israel, but part of the Netanyahu coalition and government. He routinely, he's loud and proud about, hey, I think we should bomb aid depots, and I don't think there should be any food going into the Gaza Strip. And he goes to these resettlement conferences and is a real hero to, the sort of like extremist settler community who are also very overt about we want to push all the Palestinians out and we want to be able to completely take over the Gaza Strip and all of Palestine. So let's go ahead and take a look. He was here in the halls of Congress, and Medea Benjamin of Code Pink was protesting him along with others. We can go ahead and put this up on the screen. So this is their headline from Code Pink: Israeli war criminal Itamar Ben-Gvir. And, she's confronting him and he's just sort of like completely losing his mind. He's not one to just, kind of take it and keep moving. This is his persona, is he's this kind of like thuggish character who, has pulled down a gun on someone previously and is shouting back. And he's been making the rounds. We'll get back to that. He was at Yale. He was protested there. And he was also speaking at a synagogue in Brooklyn where there were protests. And one pro-Palestine Jewish Israeli woman was viciously assaulted there. But we'll get to that in a moment. I wanted to highlight for people, there's a new documentary out from BBC done by Louis Theroux about the settlements in the West Bank and the settler ideology. He interviews, I really recommend the whole thing. It's about an hour long. I watched it last night and it's really fantastic.
Yeah, same.
He does a great
we
job.
were probably watching it at the same time, Krystal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
you
what
watched
I
the whole thing
you.
Last night too?
Yeah. We were probably watching it at the same time.
We should have, we could have gotten together and
we should have done
shared. Yeah. Anyway, he interviewed Daniela Weiss, among others, and she really is sort of like the godmother of the settler movement. And I really recommend people listen to what she has to say about what the Israeli government's program is, because what I've found is that the more like extremist elements within Israel are much more upfront and much more accurate about the actual project that Israel is engaging in at this point. So let's go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of that documentary.
So the idea is to force the government by putting people, starts with small settlements, then they get bigger, then they get recognized by the state of Israel, and basically creating a new demographic reality.
We do not force the government. We do for governments what they cannot do for themselves. Even if you take Netanyahu now, he is very happy with what we do here and also about our plans to build Jewish communities in Gaza. He's happy about it, but he cannot say it. He says the opposite. It's not realistic. Good! We will make it realistic. It's not forcing the government. It's helping the government. It's step number one in politics. You don't force the government. You give the government the courage, the ability, the public support, the political support. I think you understand what I said, even if you disagree.
And I think we do understand, Emily. I think she makes it quite plain. And what Louis, really uncovers, this won't be surprising to people who have followed this closely, is just how much of the illegal settlement activity and the violence against Palestinians is directly backed by the Israeli government. And Daniela is correct. She has, she's absolutely 100% correct that what they are doing is with the tacit support of the government and helps to enable the, explicit project of Netanyahu and his coalition.
I was thinking about that clip while we were watching Medea Benjamin kind of shout at Ben-Gvir because in a sense, it is so much more, as she says at the end, I think you understand what I'm saying, even if you disagree with it. It is so much more so much more respectable to be Daniela Weiss and Ben-Gvir than to be Benjamin Netanyahu, because it is, or to be, for example, Joe Biden or the Republicans who try to have it both ways and say, this is not what we're doing, but this is what we're doing. The at least like transparency of the project that they are involved in is so much clearer and more discernible than the people who try to have it both ways and say, nope, we're following all international law. This is, we are doing everything right. It's you who are in the wrong here. No, they're being honest about what the project actually is. And again, most people disagree with it very strongly. But, it just seeing that puts in stark contrast the sort of muddled BS that you get from Netanyahu and Joe Biden. And I mentioned Biden in particular because we have the next element to put up on the screen, D3. This is some reporting from DropSite about the quote unquote tireless work that Biden was putting in to get a ceasefire. And Krystal, just wanted to see your reaction to this DropSite story and a little bit more from it as well.
Yeah, so this is a synopsis of an Israeli Channel 13 investigation. And, it's incredible how the information you can get from the Israeli press that will never be repeated in the U.S. media. But in any case, the former Israeli ambassador, Michael Herzog, said, God did the state of Israel a favor that Biden was the president during this period. We fought in Gaza for over a year. The administration never came to us and said, ceasefire now. It never did. And that's not to be taken for granted. So, you can't help but think of AOC at the DNC saying Kamala Harris is working tirelessly for a ceasefire. In fact, I saw Ilhan Omar kind of take a shot on Twitter saying, oh, look, it turns out they were, as we all expected, they were never working tirelessly for a ceasefire. And, the Democratic base and much of the country has completely turned against Israel in an extraordinary manner. Because even in spite of the wave of propaganda we are fed about what is being done in the Gaza Strip, it could not help but break through. The images, the immorality, the war crimes, the starvation, the utter decimation of the Gaza Strip broke through. And people are looking at that with horror and say, how can my tax dollars go to support this? I don't want to be any part of this. And so to have it overtly said, what we all knew, what we all expected, but just to be brazenly open about it, no, the Biden administration, they didn't want a ceasefire. They didn't ask for a ceasefire. They never did. And so there was always a question, Emily, during the Biden administration of whether, they really wanted the war to end, but they just were afraid of the political pressure and they didn't want to apply leverage, but really they'd like it if the bomb stopped or whatever. And I think that this demonstrates that Biden himself, who, was a kind of dyed-in-the-wool ideological Zionist, committed to it, had an outdated view of Israel forged in like 1972 or whatever, that he supported this. He never asked for it to stop. He was not working tirelessly for a ceasefire. Kamala Harris certainly was not working tirelessly for a ceasefire, in spite of the fact that, at this point, the people who have power and are running the show and are driving the agenda within Israel are Daniela Weiss, much more than any sort of like rump liberal internationalist political group that may still sort of like exist on the margins within Israel. It is Itamar Ben-Gvir. It is Daniela Weiss who are driving the train and running the show. And so what I've been saying for a while is, if you had been listening to Daniela Weiss and Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and the most alarmist lefties from the beginning, from October 8th, about what was going to unfold and what that was going to look like, you would have a much, much, much more accurate, greater understanding of everything that unfolded from then until now. Now, there is a little bit of there's some talks going on about a potential ceasefire. I'm not even going to come close to getting my hopes up at this point because it just looks so incredibly dire. And this comes at a time too, we could put the next piece up on the screen. Whoever is left in Gaza, however many people are left, 2 million, maybe less, according to Trump and things that he's said, they're being starved to death in real time right now. Nothing has entered, this is from the American Conservative, nothing has entered Gaza for more than 50 days. Charity kitchens, now they've said they are out completely of food. They're shuttering services. 2 million people on the brink. We are currently witnessing Israel's solution to the Gaza question, an unmistakable humanitarian crisis engineered by the Israeli government to remove from its borders an entire people it has deemed the equivalent of locusts. That's where we are. I mean, and all of the debate about, from the early days, did they really bomb a hospital? They would never do that. And here's our PowerPoint presentation about the real tunnels and all of that. I mean, now there's just no even pretense anymore, Emily.
And this is, so again, it's not entirely surprising that the American Conservative would publish a sort of realist and, been smeared by, conservatives for a really long time. But it gets back to Ben-Gvir, Danielle Weiss, the at least like consistency of their argument, which is that, yes, the people of Gaza, the people of the West Bank, but especially the people of Gaza in this context, starve them. This is war. Like, that's their argument, and they're honest about it. Whereas the Netanyahus of the world will, say this is, we're doing the best that we can. This is, we did this, we did that. We follow all the rules. This is, totally in compliance. We're doing the best we can under tough circumstances. When in reality, there's this underlying sort of ideological marriage of the millenarian approach of people who are trying to settle areas of the West Bank, but then also the secular people who believe, secular Zionists who want Israel to sort of be protected from enemies. They are not honest about the means to that end. They both share the same end, which is more land and in all of the various ways to accomplish that, but they're not honest that they are pursuing those means to that end. And that contrast is really clear when you watch the documentary, especially.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And if you watch the documentary and you talk to some of these settlers, a number of whom, by the way, are Americans, by the way, and you'll say, well, what about, this is illegal. Like, what you're doing is illegal. These settlements are illegal under international law. They'll say, one of them said directly, I don't care. Don't care at all.
The Bible is the land deed, is what
the Bible is the land deed.
Yeah.
Some things are greater than the law. And that's their view, is that they don't have to abide by anything. God has promised this land to them. That's what they believe. And whatever it takes, they're going to do it, including starving people, including, reducing Gaza to rubble, including ethnic cleansing, whatever.
Old Testament justice.
Takes.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And again, it is so much more honest. And like, that's the, again, as Danielle Weiss says, disagree with it, but that puts it all on the table for people to judge what the tactics are, as opposed to, again, hiding behind this sort of nonsense pablum about following international law and everything. That's just posturing, and it forces American politicians, our own politicians, to lie and stretch the truth on their behalf in order to keep funneling the money that way.
I have a feeling on the Democratic side, this is going to be a real litmus test issue in 2028, because the Democratic base is 80% on board with, we're not sending any more weapons to Israel. There has just been an absolute sea change among Democratic base voters. And I have to think that this is going to be a significant litmus test issue in the 2028 primary. And I think it will be very hard for a candidate to get through who holds the old line, Joe Biden, like, whatever Israel wants, Israel gets position moving forward. But we'll have to see how the politics of that play out, and whether there are enough Palestinians and enough of Palestine left for it to even really matter at that point, which is increasingly an open and very concerning question.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.